given this unprecedented rate and scale of change, the single most important competency that leaders can develop is this capacity for tactical and strategic insight. If another word for this is foresight, which I believe is the central ethic of leadership. In this new business environment, the organization and its leaders have got to learn incredibly quickly. The traditional learning cycle that's been taught in business schools for 50 years or more is known as the Dewey learning cycle, or the Kolb learning cycle. And that's where you have a direct experience, or the team has a direct experience. The team or the leader reflects on that experience. They learn from that experience, they plan, and they do it again. And so it's the whole idea of creating and adjusting, creating and adjusting. But this is learning from the past, and actually it's still very important, but it's just not sufficient today. The new learning cycle, which is something that we discovered some 15 or more years ago, is known as the U process. And I personally believe that this is going to become more and more important in this new business environment. The U process has 3 elements instead of 4. The first is to observe very deeply, to notice exactly what's going on in terms of current reality. And then you drop down to the bottom of the U and you sense what is necessary to do, how to take a quick decision. And that's called primary knowing at the bottom of the U. And then you act quickly and flow, or act in an instant. So that's the new learning cycle, and that's the one that I believe is going to be able to help resolve this dilemma that leaders find themselves in today. I mentioned primary knowing. There are 2 categories of knowing. The first, which we're very familiar with, is secondary knowing. And this is all about pattern recognition. It's about matching a new challenge with memory based on a prior experience. And this is what we all understand, the way our mind works. And even though we may not be conscious of it, these prior experiences or prior memories reside in our brain, and it's sometimes called lateral thinking, and you can match these 2 together and come to a quick decision. Now, I said a moment ago that that's still incredibly important. This is something that's useful for most situations. But when you need breakthrough knowledge, when you need something that that you're able to confront a challenge that is so daunting and so important, you need to go to the second category of knowing, which is called primary knowing by the cognitive scientists. And sometimes it's called non-local intuition. And this is where you gain breakthrough knowledge from a field of active information outside of you. It's not inside of you. It's not manufactured in your brain. It comes from outside. And it's called 13 or 14 different things. But we prefer to call it the field of active information. My mentor, David Bohm, called it the implicate order, but that's sometimes too difficult a word to use regularly. But this primary knowing is knowing that cannot be explained by past or forgotten knowledge. It comes brand new. It comes, the research shows, into your gut and then your heart, and then it goes to your brain. And you had better write it down quickly, because since it's not manufactured in your brain, you're going to forget it if you don't write it down. And this is an absolute principle. So the point is that today's world demands fast decision making, and tapping into primary knowing is the way to do it. There's four principles here that I think are really important. The first key principle is that each of us have a current level of consciousness. We all have that, whether we're an adolescent or a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old. We each have our current level of consciousness. And the second principle is that our level of consciousness determines what we can see or what we can sense. And the third principle is that people progress upward through steps. And the higher you progress up these steps, the more you can see. And the fourth principle is that the inner work that we undertake, the study and the disciplines and the inner work, enable us to gain mastery at our current level of development. So we all have these stages of development, and the key for this moment in time is to gain mastery at your level of development. And to me, that's the most important work that we could undertake in today and in the near future.